Happening now. The truth about a harsh ad attack on Mitt Romney. I'll press the co-founder of a pro-Obama super PAC about the inaccuracies. A medical emergency at the end of the earth, in the dead darkness of the Antarctic winter. And the dancing diplomat. Hillary Clinton gets down. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room. The White House is trying today to further distance itself from a controversial new ad by a pro-Obama super PAC. The ad appears to blame Mitt Romney and his work at Bain Capital for the cancer death of a former steelworker's wife.
That's absolutely right, Wolf. And it turns out the spot by the group Priorities USA Action hasn't actually run yet as a paid TV commercial, though the group says it will run soon.
All right, let's bring in the co-founder of Priorities USA Action. We're talking about Bill Burton, a former deputy White House press secretary. Bill, I want you to take a closer look right now at the fact check on your group's ad that our White House correspondent Brianna Keeler prepared.
Joe Sopcich worked at GST Steel in Missouri for almost 30 years. He was laid off after Bain Capital acquired the plant, eventually closing it down. Now Sopcich is featured in a new ad by Priorities USA Action, the super PAC supporting President Obama's re-election.
When Mitt Romney and Bain closed the plant, I lost my health care, and my family lost their health care. And a short time after that, my wife became ill, and then I took her up to the Jackson County Hospital and admitted her for pneumonia, and that's when they found the cancer. And by then it was stage 4. There was nothing they could do for her.
It's a heartbreaking story, but the ad does not tell all of it. In 1999, Mitt Romney leaves Bain for the Salt Lake Olympics, stopping day-to-day oversight of the company, but remaining CEO. In 2001, Joe Sopcich loses his job when Bain closes the plant. His wife still has insurance, though, from her employer, Savers Thrift Store. A year later, Romney formally leaves Bain, and it's that year, 2002, or perhaps 2003, Sopcich tells CNN, that his wife leaves her job because of an injury. That's when she became uninsured without fallback insurance from her husband. A few years later, in 2006, she goes to the hospital, is diagnosed with cancer, and dies just days later. Sopcich, an Obama supporter who has appeared in another ad back in May for the Obama campaign, blames Romney for the loss of his job and his insurance.
That's the way that I feel. I mean, Mitt Romney, he's a very rich man. I mean, it's obvious if you watch him on television that he's completely out of touch with the average family or, middle-income people. I don't think he has any concept as to how that when you close a big company like that, how it affects families, the community. It affects everyone.
The Romney campaign is blasting the ad, a spokeswoman saying President Obama's allies continue to use discredited and dishonest attacks in a contemptible effort to conceal the administration's deplorable economic record. The Obama campaign and the White House are keeping their distance from the debate. White House Press Secretary Jay Carney said he has yet to see the ad.
I'm simply saying that I have not seen this, so how could I possibly assess it without...
But you can. Will you assess it later?
If you ask me tomorrow, sure.
And Wolf, tomorrow is now today, and Jay Carney has been asked about this ad repeatedly by a number of reporters. No assessment from Carney. The White House, as well as the campaign, distancing themselves from this super PAC ad. Jen Psaki, a spokesperson for the campaign, saying they have no knowledge of Sopcich's personal story. But we do know, Wolf, that Sopcich actually told his personal story on an Obama campaign call in mid-May. That was a call that Stephanie Cutter, the deputy manager of the campaign, was on, Wolf.
All right, Brianna, I want you to stand by because Bill Burton is here. He's the co-founder of Priorities USA Action. You're responsible for this ad, is that right?
That's right.
You stand by it?
Absolutely.
You make a serious allegation, in effect suggesting that the Republican presidential nominee, in effect, is responsible for the death of this woman. And we've gone through the timeline, and it's clearly he's not responsible for her death.
Absolutely not.
You're
absolutely right. He's not. And that's not what the ad suggests.
And what is the message of the ad? Because that's clearly missed.
Anybody watching that ad seems to...
Well, it's clearly missed by that fact check.
Why?
There's no doubt. The point of this ad is that, it's to tell the story of one guy, Joe Sopcich, and the impact on his life that happened for years and to this day as a result of decisions that Mitt Romney made. This is one of a series of ads in which we talk about, you know, the very long-lasting impacts that Mitt Romney's decision had on these communities, on these individuals and their families. What that fact check did was it presupposes that if Joe's wife had gotten sick right after he left that company, right after he was fired from that company, then somehow Mitt Romney would be culpable. If she hadn't had health insurance for a short time in that intervening period, somehow Mitt Romney would be culpable. We're not saying Mitt Romney is culpable for that. What we're saying is that Joe Sopcich was fired from his job, and as a result of that, he wasn't able to hold on to health care benefits that were promised to him. And as a result, when his wife got sick, he didn't have health care.
But his wife was diagnosed with cancer 6 years after Mitt Romney effectively left Bain Capital. He effectively left in '99.
Well, he was the CEO until 2002.
Yeah, but in 1990, he went to run the Olympic Games in Salt Lake, and he worked full-time on that.
Most people think that when you're the CEO, you're responsible for the decisions of that organization.
In terms of day-to-day operations, he had no role.
He was the CEO. He was the sole shareholder. He's responsible for the decisions that were made.
But he had already been gone from a day-to-day operation.
Well, he's signed his name to.
But the bottom line, I want Kate to move on. But you're saying
that is Romney's
you stand by this ad. You haven't placed it any place yet, have you?
Well, we shipped it, so it'll show up on TV
How much
soon.
are you going to spend to promote this ad, and where are you going to promote it?
Well, it'll be up in battleground states around the country. It's part of a $20 million project that we're using to tell the story.
What part of that $20 million?
Well, you know, it depends. Every ad is a little bit different. Sometimes you think that you want to keep an ad on longer, and so you do.
So even though so many fact checkers says it's inaccurate, it's not responsible, it's misleading, you're still going to go ahead and play it.
Well, Wolf, just like we just talked about, what this ad does is it tells a story of one guy and the impact that Mitt Romney had on it.
But it's misleading to tell.
Well, this is your opinion.
Most independent fact checkers, and we're independent.
What fact in that ad is wrong?
The impression that you get that he killed her.
So you're saying that there's impression. You're saying that there's an impression.
Anybody who watches that 60-second ad comes away and says Mitt Romney's responsible, at least indirectly, for this lovely woman's death.
I just don't think that's true, and we would never make that case.
I mean, the point of the ad. That's the message you take away from it, Bill, because whatever message was intended in this commercial is not.
It's clearly it's clearly lost on some folks. That make no mistake about that. But the truth is, what this ad is about is what Mitt Romney wants his campaign to be about. He says that his central...
Hold on a second, because I want to bring Brianna into this, because she did the fact check for us. Brianna, you're still with us, right?
I am.
Now, he's questioning your fact check. I want you to tell Bill Burton, you know, how you did this, how you came into this, and what your thoughts are based on what he's saying that, you know, they never wanted to suggest that Mitt Romney was indirectly responsible for the death of this woman.
I mean, look at what you're saying, Will.
Well,
like,
actually,
of course that's not what we're trying to say.
You're not.
Well, if I may,
she did the fact check. She worked hard on it.
Fact check your question.
Okay, well,
Bill, let Brianna have a second.
Listen to Brianna.
Well, if I may, because we were the only ones who were able to speak to Joe Sopcich, who obviously is the voice in the ad, and it was Joe who, in the ad. Well, yes, as of yesterday, we had spoken to him in the afternoon, and it was Joe who says in the ad that his family lost his health insurance when he was laid off from Bain. But it was Joe himself who told me that his wife did have primary health insurance, that she was secondarily covered through the health insurance at GST Steel. So it just seemed like there was very much an incomplete picture in this ad, painted by Joe Sopcich's word, put out there by the super PAC, and that when you put this out to a reasonable person, they took away the conclusion that Mitt Romney was tied to her death. And I just think that if you were to have told the complete story, a person watching this might have drawn a different conclusion. And for that point, I think it's inaccurate.
Well, I appreciate your opinion on how we could have made the ad, but Brianna, frankly, I talked to Joe today as well, and we had a conversation about, you know, what he thought of the ad and how he thought it was playing, and his opinion is that...
And he stands by it.
His opinion, he does stand by it, because his opinion is that Mitt Romney is not culpable for his wife getting sick, but when she got sick, when their family needed health insurance, they didn't have it. And if he was able to stay in his job, if he was able to keep health insurance that was promised to him by Mitt Romney and Bain Capital, when he was there, even before this period that Wolf lets him off the hook for, 1997, they made a contract with their workers and said no matter what happened to that company, they would be able to keep their health insurance. He wasn't able to.
And also the case is that She remained insured after that. She hurt her rotator cuff, and then the insurance that she had as her primary insurance through Savers Thrift Store there in the Kansas City area, that is when she had to leave her job and she lost that health insurance. So there's also this element of if she hadn't been injured, she would have been able to keep the health insurance. I just think that there are a number of factors that aren't mentioned in the ad.
Your point here that if she didn't, if for some reason she didn't have health insurance during that time to take care of her shoulder, that then Mitt Romney might be more culpable. That's not the point that we're making. And I just don't think that that's the right conclusion to draw.
No, I think I want to jump in real quick.
No, I think she had health insurance. I think maybe I missed your point, but she had health insurance at that point.
Right. No, my point is that even if she had not, that wouldn't make Mitt Romney any more culpable for her getting sick or what happened to her. Because that's not the point that we're trying to make. We're trying to say that for thousands of people, when Mitt Romney came to town, they lost their jobs and their health insurance. The impact of that is still felt. That community where that plant was is still run down.
Now, Bill, I want to jump in real quick because a big part of the story is how the campaign itself seems to be running away from this. I think we have the Obama campaign. I apologize. They've been peppered with questions about this since the ads come out. Listen to what their reaction has been.
This is an ad by an entity that's not controlled by the campaign. I certainly don't know the specifics of this man's case.
You do know that we don't have anything to do with Priorities USA, that by law we're not allowed to coordinate with them, and by law we don't have anything to do with their ads. I don't know the facts of when Joe Sopcich's wife got sick or when she died.
We can't speak to the Super PAC ads. We don't have anything to do with them, so I don't have anything further on that.
Because it is pretty...
Bill, you know, you worked at the White House. You know all of these folks very well. Are they backing you up? I know you guys cannot coordinate. We've talked about this over and over again. Because let's be honest, if there is an inaccurate ad that could even be perceived as deceptive coming from a Republican supporting Super PAC, you guys would be lighting your hair on fire.
Kate, the reason I think this is so funny is you just showed 3 clips of folks who are affiliated with the president's campaign or at the White House saying what is just basic fact, which is, of course, they had nothing to do with this ad. Of course, we don't coordinate our message or our strategy.
But they
this
can
is
give an opinion. There's nothing wrong. They don't have to coordinate, but there's nothing wrong with them saying, yeah, it's a factual ad or it's a distortion. They're just saying, we don't know anything about it.
No, actually, they can't say whether or not they like or don't like an ad.
They can.
No, they can't
They can say. Well, I mean... When the Romney campaign, Bill, and you know this, when they put out a distortion, or when a Super PAC supporting Romney puts out a distortion, you're all over them, and you're raising serious questions. In the last hour, we had one of these a Romney campaign ad on welfare reform, which was a distortion. We pointed that out as well.
That was a distortion of fact,
One of the reasons that the American public loses confidence in politics and in presidential candidates is when you don't have to do that. You don't have to distort. You can just get into a serious debate. There are serious issues. You guys disagree. The American public's interested in that.
Well, there are serious issues in this race.
Yes, there are.
And one of them is Mitt Romney's business experience. He says that should be the central focus of why he ought to be president of the United States.
Wrong with that.
And what this ad does and what our other ads do, we've got Loris, we've got Donnie on our website who talk about the impact that Mitt Romney had in their lives. I mean, when people look at those ads, what they take away from it isn't any of this stuff that you guys are talking about. It's that Mitt Romney thinks that his business experience ought to be why he should be president of the United States, but they see those ads and they say, no, that guy should not be president of the United States because the impact that he had on people's lives, the impact that he had on people's lives,
let's go to break and then I'll engage.
is not why he ought to be president.
Kate's holding on. Brianna, don't go away. We'll take a quick break. Bill Burton is here. He's nice enough to stick around, defend this controversial ad. We're going to continue this conversation right after this.
What's up?
All right, we're back here in the Situation Room with Bill Burton. He's the co-founder of Priorities USA Action, the pro-Obama Super PAC. We're going to continue our conversation on this rather controversial ad. But Brianna, our White House correspondent, she wants to make a point. Go ahead, Brianna.
Well, I was just going to say, Wolf, I think it is interesting because today we heard from the campaign that they're not familiar with the personal story of Joe Sopcich, but we know there was this conference call, so there at least is some familiarity. Joe Sopcich appeared in a campaign ad back in May, and when I spoke to him yesterday, he told me that he was asked by the campaign to appear at events in battleground states. And it seems like until now, with this Super PAC ad running, the campaign has not run away from Joe Sopcich's story. So it just makes me wonder how well the president is is really served by this ad that's supposed to be helping him. I'm here following him in Colorado. He was talking about women's issues today. The campaign, the White House is trying to make a case about a Romney ad on welfare that they say is very unfair, and a lot of fact checkers have agreed. And instead, this is what we're talking about. So it just makes me wonder if it really does serve the president well and how widely it's actually going to air.
All right, Bill, go ahead.
Well, I mean, what Brianna is suggesting is that there would be some sort of coordinated effort by which we would run an ad. The president would go campaigning with the president would go campaigning.
She's not suggesting coordination.
I didn't say that.
No. Listen to my whole point. Listen to my whole point. And that after we run an ad, maybe the president would go campaigning with Joe Sopcich, and she's surprised that she doesn't see him out on the trail today. That would never happen, obviously. We've got our own program. We're working very hard to make sure that the American people know the truth about Mitt Romney's business experience. The campaign is doing what the campaign is doing. But to suggest that we would be mixing those two, I think, is a distortion of what the campaign finance laws are and what would possibly even happen here. So
one point that I think Brianna makes, and it's a very important, very good point here, is what this ad has effectively done, doesn't it do exactly what you don't want it to do, which is, number one, it's getting the campaign that you support completely off message. The president was talking about women's issues today, and the campaign is being peppered about questions about an ad that has been found to be deceptive, inaccurate. We can debate that in and of itself, but the fact that I enjoy it. But it's getting him off message, and that's not what your intention is. So do you regret that at all?
No, what I think that we've been able to do is extend this conversation about Mitt Romney's business experience and what it's meant to the thousands of people whose lives that he had a profound impact on.
Well, what about the hundreds of thousands who have jobs today because of the capital that he invested in Sports Authority and Staples and some other companies that are hugely, hugely successful?
What's interesting is that you actually give him credit for more jobs than he himself would take.
Whatever it is, let's say 100,000.
He has said all sorts of different numbers. He said all sorts of different numbers.
Those are pretty successful companies.
And there's no doubt that there are places where he was successful. There's a reason that he made so much money. But the point here is, he says that it's his business experience is why he ought to be president of the United States. Well, let's look at some of the decisions he made. And when he forced companies into bankruptcy and made all that money, regardless of...
You look at the failures and you look at the successes and you add up, and the American people can say, he's a good businessman, he's not a good businessman. That is all fair. But as I get back to the point, and we're not going to belabor it a lot longer because I know we have already, when you do an ad that seems to leave the impression that he was at least indirectly responsible for a woman dying from cancer, that is so powerful, that is so tough. It goes beyond what you guys should be doing. I'm not saying you shouldn't argue the debate, but that's the impression any reasonable person seeing that ad, you get that impression.
In these thousands of stories, some of them are truly heartbreaking, and they're really sad. And that doesn't mean that they should necessarily be off limits. But he had a profound impact on people's lives. And if you go into these communities, you've got thousands of people who know the impact that he had in their lives, but he walked away.
You're standing by this ad. You're going to play this ad.
Iowa, Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia.
It will start.
It will start this week, Bill says.
Bill Burton, was good of you to come in and talk about it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much.